Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope that you're all good. In today's video we're going to be doing a Sims 4 speed build and I'm going to be building in the world of Newcrest. We're building on the Beech Byway lot and I wanted this to be a couple's first home for a sim that I've actually been playing with in my own gameplay. So the sim that I've been playing with, he lives in the city and so does his girlfriend, and I'm kind of at a point in their gameplay where I want them to move into their first house and for it to be away from the city. They've both finished university, they're both in their careers, so I kind of feel as though it fits for my gameplay to take that next step for them. So I thought I would build them a new house and record it for YouTube. So here we are. I wanted this to be quite a modern house and I kind of wanted it to have a bit of a Scandinavian vibe, but I don't feel as though I achieved that as well as what I could have. I kind of just didn't lean into that look as much as what I wanted to when I was looking at inspiration pics. I think it's because I started building and then I just ended up going with the flow and doing my own thing, but I did really love how this build turned out. I went for lots of light color woods with dark black exterior as well, and then I kind of followed that into the house with the natural wood tones as well, because I really loved how the light wood and the black woods of like the doors and things looked together. I have to say as well, these two doors, the front and back door, they're both from different packs, but they work so well together. Over here on the left hand side of the build, this bump out is going to be their bedroom. So I wanted to come in and kind of build like a privacy fence, because where this part of the build or this whole build looks out onto what I would imagine would be a fairly busy road if it was in real life, I wanted it to have a little bit more privacy. So I used these wall dividers. I can never remember if they're from the City Living or the Get to Work pack, but I really love them. If you place them upside along a wall and then delete the wall, you can just have the wooden dividers there. So I've done that, and then further along into the landscaping I do add some trellis with some greenery growing up it, and I really liked how it looked because I wanted to have lots of big modern windows for this build, and I feel as though putting that little privacy fence there just added a touch of something different to the look of the house. And I'd imagine that if it was real life, it would be nice to look out to from the bedroom. So I really loved how that looked, and then I also really loved how the wood panels looked up against the black of the exterior over on the front of the property as well. So I wanted to come in here and the entryway where we've done platform stairs leading up to the entryway. I wanted to come in and have this area raised, but then with some steps that go down into the hallway. I kind of liked how it gave the room a bit of a split level vibe, and again added to that modern look. And then because I wanted this to have a little bit of I wanted it to have a Scandinavian look, but I wanted it to feel very open plan. But instead of going fully open plan with the living space, I used archways to separate it, and I really loved how that turned out. So we have got the separate bedroom and bathroom obviously, and then the kitchen has the archway from the living room and dining space, and I thought it come together really nicely for a fairly small sized build. So I jumped inside to do the floor plan so that I could get all my windows where I wanted them to be. Where I was using quite big windows for all of the windows in this build, I did need to kind of go in and get that floor plan right before I could come in and place them, because I wanted to make sure it was going to work. So then I've jumped back to the outside and we're coming in and just finishing off some of the landscaping. I don't go in with too much landscaping because I wanted it to be a couple's first home. I kind of wanted it to look as though it's quite fresh and they've not put their stamp on it yet. And where they're quite young, and both the Sims that I play with, they don't have any gardening interests or gardening skills built yet. So I didn't want to imagine them as people who actually bothered with their garden too much. So I just went in with some bushes and greenery, and then I popped down the pink tree over in the back because I felt as though that fitted with the Newcrest world, as this is actually where I'm gonna leave this lot and move them into. So placing that down just kind of made the build fit in with the rest of Newcrest, because Newcrest isn't I find it a bit of a strange lot, to be quite honest, as in it's got no lots available. Sorry, it's got no builds already there that you can live in. So you can go in and put your own stamp on it. But I always feel as though the lots in the background are very mismatched. So I like to just go in and place my own builds here and go with the flow for those. A lot of the time you'll see over on the right hand side, there's another build that I built that is up on YouTube a few videos back. And that's similar to this. It has a very modern vibe, and that's actually what I like doing with Newcrest, even though it doesn't necessarily match the rest of the world. But I felt as though popping down that pink tree helped pull it in a little bit. Now for this build, I didn't give them a too big back garden. So they've got quite a small back garden, but then they've also got this deck space off to the side at the front, which I decided to add the fire pit in and just some decorations. And I really loved how that turned out and looked. It just looked like a really nice chill space. I gave them the gravelled driveway and grabbed a car from Debug just because I love how that looks. I feel as though it really adds to the curb appeal and gives a nice modern look, although cars ain't drivable or usable in The Sims 4. I love how it looks adding one down, and I thought it looked really nice with the gravelled driveway. However, we have moved on to the inside and we're starting off with the kitchen today. For this kitchen, I used lots of items from the Dream Home Decorator pack. I love using that tall cabinet and making it look as though the fridge is built in, and the little cutout there worked perfectly for that space. Here I was kind of trying to just play around with some of the different upper cabinets to try and create a bit of a different style, but it wasn't working, so I just went for the basic ones. But I loved how this turned out, and we've got a small island counter. I didn't want to make this feel too cluttered or too full, where it's kind of like their first property together. I didn't want to add too much personalization to it. I kind of just wanted to feel as though they're going to put their stamp on it as the years go by. I wanted it to feel very realistic to the people that I'm playing with. So yeah, I hope that comes through, because I didn't add loads of clutter, which is what I normally would do, but I did add enough to still make it feel lived in and as though they've brought their items from their separate households and kind of combined it with lots of new things, which I kind of imagine is what you do when you first move in with somebody. So I'm coming in here and cluttering up the kitchen. I loved how this island counter worked. I was originally going to put the cooker on there, like the hob, but I decided to stick that over the other side and then just have the island as kind of like a nice seating area for when they're just eating, just those two. And then we're just adding in the last few bits for the kitchen. I went through and this whole kitchen come together really quickly. Usually I'm quite indecisive when I do my builds, but this one I kind of just went for the flow, and it just worked really easily, if that makes sense. I love these particular curtains from, I think it's the Desert Luxe kit. I don't feel as though there's many curtains in The Sims that work nicely for the taller wall heights, and I was using the medium wall height in this build, which is not something I usually do, but because we'd done the platformed entryway, I went with medium wall height so the inside of the entryway didn't look too squished. So using those medium wall heights, I grabbed out those curtains and I thought they just worked really well. I absolutely love them. I wish we had more curtains like that, but they worked nicely in the kitchen. I didn't add curtains to all of the windows, just because there's quite a lot of windows in this build. So I didn't add curtains to all of them. I think I missed out adding them to one window because I didn't feel as though they would look right when they were clipping into the cabinet. Moving on into the living room and dining room, there is just a small dining section over here in the corner, and originally you see I placed down those yellow chairs, but I felt as though it just looked a little bit too matchy with the kitchen. So instead of adding in a pop of colour with the chairs, I decided to add it in with the rug as well. So you'll see when we get to that, it's kind of like got a yellowy orange abstract look to it, and I felt as though it just added in a hint of colour. Maybe one of them likes yellow, so they've picked out those, but I wanted everything else to look quite neutral. I leaned a little bit into this kind of sage green greyish colour in here with these cabinets, which are from the Dream Home Decorator pack. Originally I just placed down the one, but then I felt as though because of how the window is, it would look good adding one either side. This is that rug I'm talking about. I've never actually used it, I don't think, in this particular swatch, but I loved how you've kind of got that greyish, greenish, bluish colour in there, and then the little pop of yellow and orange helps tie in with the kitchen. Although it's not an open plan room, you have only got the archway there, so it's not fully closed off. So I felt as though it just brought in a little bit of that yellow without leaning too much into a colour, because I didn't want to do that for this build. And then I added in lots of plants to help bring in that neutral vibe. I placed down this telescope, and I know you can't actually use these inside, which I think is such a shame, because I think if you have one pointing at a window it should work, but unfortunately it doesn't in gameplay. But the male sim I have, he is building the logic skill for one of the challenges I'm doing with him, so I needed to place that down, so I placed it down there. And then my thought process was you could just place it in your inventory when you want to use it. And the same for his girlfriend in my game. She makes money. She's currently, I think she's still at university actually. She makes money through painting, so she's been building up the painting skill. She's quite high in that skill, so I placed down the easel for her so that she can continue in my gameplay to making money. I don't actually plan on them living in this house too long. I want to, once she's finished university, he's already in the doctor's career and he's a few levels into it, I want them to kind of go down the family route, but I wanted them to at least have one home that was just theirs before we go down that route. So that kind of just went off. I went off on a little waffle there, but yeah, that was why I've placed down the telescope inside, even though you can't actually use it inside. I hope that makes sense. And then again, the living room comes together really quickly like the kitchen did. So we've moved on into the hallway, and here I wanted to make use of the space, so I added in those large vases, and they are empty, so I added in one of the plants and just kind of like merged them together. I do come back further along in the video and fix it up because they aren't placed perfectly, but I felt as though that took up a little bit of space, added a little bit of decor. Again, we go in with these curtains because I feel as though these match these windows beautifully. And then this is where I placed down her art easel, and I just placed down some canvases on the floor. I kind of like how they give that look of already started paintings, maybe ready to sell, and then that gives a little space that she can actually continue doing her hobby / job in. I really loved that light I've used in the hallway as well, because it's quite a modern build and it's not exactly massive. I wanted to make sure there was some key features in each of the rooms that stood out. So for the hallway, I felt that light worked well for that. And then we've moved on into the bedroom space, and here, this was quite a small space, so I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. I played around with some different dresses, but then I ended up just keeping it simple. I loved how it looks out onto the front, but we've got that bit of privacy. The big windows bring in so much light, which I really love when I am playing in The Sims. And then here I just added on some plants, the mannequin statue. Again, I felt that just gave off a really nice modern vibe. And then we're just coming in and filling the rest of the bedroom. I popped these lights down on the underside of the bedside cabinets, which I don't usually do, but I thought it looked quite different. And then it left some space on the top of the bedside cabinets to add like the drinks tray and things like that. I really loved the bedding on this particular bed. I kind of felt as though it matched the female sim I used for this gameplay's personality, and was kind of adding a little touch of her stamp on to the house. We're then finished pretty much internally. I felt like I flew through this build, so we've moved on to the outside garden. And then, because like I mentioned, they're both young sims, they're both busy with their careers and university, I don't imagine them to be people who spend much time doing their garden, so I wanted them to have quite a simple garden. But then I also wanted it to be like, this is their first home away from living in an apartment in the city, so I wanted to make sure that they had a space where they could kind of show off to their friends that, you know, they've not only took their relationship to the next level, but they've moved out of an apartment into a house, which is a huge step. So I wanted to make sure the garden looked quite nice, but I didn't want it to be anything like any gardening skills and things like that. So I went in with a fully decked garden and then popped down the barbecue and the bar, because I thought both of those would work really well for entertaining their friends. And then I did come in and add some plants in pots, because I'd imagine these are quite simple. And then I decided, just for kind of like gameplay purposes, because I'm going to be uploading the video to, the builder to the gallery, to pop down 2 planters as well. So if you wanted to go into the gardening skill, you could. I then jumped back inside and finished off the hallway. I wasn't happy with how the plants were placed, so I fixed that up and added in the burglar alarm. And then that brings us to the end of the build. I really loved how this one turned out. As I mentioned, it is available to download on the Sims 4 gallery. I will leave all the details for that in the description box below, but do let me know what you thought of this house. I kind of love this modern vibe, so I'm definitely going to try and do some more builds like that and hopefully improve my skills. But if you did enjoy this one, please do give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would absolutely love it if you hit that subscription button. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.